Hey everyone, Shaun Stevenson here, author of the Throne series, and okay, so I think I have now read the book that I would put at the bottom of my Goosebumps list. What book am I talking about? I'm talking about Legend of the Lost Legend, book number 47 in the Goosebumps original 62. So, I picked up this book because I wanted to read another Goosebumps book, but I wanted one that was a little different, one that I didn't really know anything about. And so I thought, oh, I'll pick up Legend of the Lost Legend. Now, I have to say, I knew going in that some people did not like this one as much. And they said, well, it's kind of different. It's just not as good. And I thought, well, maybe that's because it has kind of a fantasy element with the Viking angle. So let's see what happens here. Because, there's this Viking on the cover. So I thought, well, maybe there's like a Viking angle to this. So maybe it's like a fantasy kind of horror element. So let's see what happens. So I started reading it, and the opening's pretty great. The whole setup is pretty good. So here's what's going on in this book. In Legend of the Lost Legend, you have this family of three. You have the dad, Richard, the son, Justin, and the daughter, Marissa. And the three of them are in this country called, I think it's pronounced Brovania, which I was like, Brovania? This is a very odd name for a fictional country, but okay, here we go. So Brovania, I don't know. I don't know if you're supposed to say it fast or emphasize the bro. I have no idea. So they're in this country and they are searching for the lost legend, which is a legend, like a written down legend, that they are searching for that Richard, who is an author, has always wanted to write about because there's this lost legend, and if he could find it, he could like talk about it in a book and retell the legend, and it would be make him famous and all these sorts of things. So he and his kids are looking for this lost legend. And as they're out in the woods looking for this lost legend, which is supposedly held within a silver chest, they kind of get a little lost in the woods. And then in the middle of the night, Justin and Marissa wake up to a dog howling and wanting to lead them away from the campsite and to a mysterious cabin where there is a Viking inside. And the Viking tells them that if they can pass the test, she will let them have what they have been searching for, which is the lost legend. Now, this is a very interesting book because I think this is one of those Goosebumps books where R.L. Stine had the germ of an idea, but had no idea where to take it in the middle. I think he knew his twist going in, and he knew what he wanted to do at the very end, which I will say I did like the very end. I liked the twist. I liked the very end. I thought that part was great, and I thought the beginning was good. It is the middle part in the center of the book that is so random, it is so just weird, and has like a sort of mini twist at the end of the middle that I thought it has like a couple mini twists. There's a few plot twists that happen here, and I would say one of them, the very end one, I liked a lot. You could kind of guess it if you start to think about it too much as you're reading. You're like, oh wait, is it this? But the two mini twists you would not see coming. I did not see them coming at all, but I did think, well, that's just weird. Like, that's just very odd. I don't really understand what that is all about and why we just went through this. It's almost one of those things where the characters just went through this whole thing and now they're on the other side of it. But now that you've learned a plot twist, the whole thing they went through is actually pointless. So it was kind of difficult to read from that perspective. I didn't really love it. There is, I will say, a very interesting thing going on with the dad and the two kids. And I was kind of trying to figure out what exactly R.L. Stine was trying to do with this, because at the beginning, the dad says to the two kids that they are not being helpful. He keeps telling them, like, you're not being helpful to me. And he's actually, it says in the text, he's like complaining about them. And I thought that was very interesting, that in some senses, these two kids were kind of bogging him down in a way, and he was expressing those feelings to his kids as they're camping in this tent in the middle of the woods looking for this lost legend. And I thought that was kind of a very intriguing thing for a kid's book to do. And doesn't happen very often where a parent is complaining about their kids to their kids. And so there's also, I feel like, a little bit of a storyline here with a theme of the kids are trying to help, but they aren't helping with the help that they are giving. The help they're giving is not the help that they should be giving, and they're trying to do their best, but instead of the dad being grateful for it, the dad is just a little bit not so grateful about it. And I thought that was just an odd but intriguing thing that they did throughout the book. But again, R.L. Stine doesn't really do anything with that. It just is kind of there, which I appreciate on one level that it's something different for the characters, but on another level, I wish he would have tied it in a little more to the theme of the book with the lost legend and all this kind of stuff. Now, the mini twist, I'm not going to give it away, but I'm just going to say vaguely, I don't think it really worked. It was super random and kind of reminded me a little bit of like One Day at Horrorland. Okay, I know some people love One Day at Horrorland. I don't really like that Goosebumps book. That one is not my favorite. I don't really like the twist in it. I feel like it's annoying. I feel like it's one of those ones where like R.L. Stine thought, oh, this will be really funny. And I think it is funny to some people. It's just not funny to me. And I thought like, that's kind of annoying that that's what your twist is in that book. And that's kind of how I felt about these two mini twists in the middle of this book. I thought like, what is going on? Like, how is that possible? Like, that seemed just very, very far-fetched, like outside the world of this book. And especially when you find out a couple things near the end, it is a little bit of a, huh? Like, how does that even work? And there's no explanation. There's a couple things that you get explained and you're like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense then that's that. But there's a couple of things they do not explain that I thought, well, how would that even be possible? And how do you control that? And how do you make that happen? And that just doesn't even make sense to me. So I did not love this book. I'm not going to lie. That middle part was just too random and just kind of dragged on and on and on. The middle part was a little bit of one of those things where every single chapter introduces some new little element. It reminded me a tiny bit of in the Goosebumps House of Shivers book, the first one, scariest book ever, when they go into the forest in that book and there's just like, here's a creature, here's a creature, here's a creature. Every single chapter there's a new creature. And so it just kind of made it a little bit annoying to know, like, okay, like this is like short little 5-page chapters where you're introducing new little creatures every single moment and then getting them away from it and like saving the day, and it just keeps going. So I just thought, well, this is just kind of dragging on forever, and I don't really love it. Justin and Marissa, I actually kind of liked them, though, as the main characters of the book, which is kind of interesting. Like, I felt like neither one was annoying, and neither one was very bothersome to the other. Like, they work together, and I do think they grow through that a tiny bit. Because at the very, very beginning, they kind of are complaining a little bit to each other, about each other, but they grow together through their circumstances to be a unified team, working together to get themselves out of the situations. And so I really liked that aspect, that especially since, like in some of these books, like in Bad Hair Day, that little sister is just so annoying, off the charts annoying. And here, Marissa and Justin, they're a little more realistic. They banter, they kind of fight a little bit, they complain about each other, but at the end of the day, they're working together to help each other as much as they can. Now, one other thing I gotta mention, the very beginning of this book, I really loved. Like, I think the first 2 or 3 chapters, there's something going on that I thought, oh, I feel like that is the book we should have had, not the book we got. I feel like that storyline should have been what it should have been instead of what happens in the rest of the book. I felt like the first part was so interesting, but was indicative. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I am just now piecing something together. Okay, okay, let me think about how I can talk about this without spoilers. Because at the very beginning of this book, there is a storyline going on that kind of ends, and it mirrors part of this book later on. And I think those two things are bookends to this storyline, because at the beginning there's no way to finish what is happening, and that's all I will say, so I can be as vague as possible without giving away any spoilers, because this is a spoiler-free review. And at the very end, it's a similar situation. It's like real life mirroring real life, if that makes sense. If you read the book, you might be able to pick up what I'm putting down, but if you haven't read the book, it's going to not make a lot of sense. Although, here's the question: should you read this one? If you're a Goosebumps completionist, like you're reading through the entire 62 originals, then yeah, you're going to want to read it, because you're going to want to know what happens. I think, though, if you're looking for a good Goosebumps book, this is not the one. I would say to skip this one, because of how just muddling the middle is. It just doesn't make sense. It's kind of annoying. But then you have the good character development, and you have the very end where there's a great little twist at the very, very end, and the setup is good. So it's just like that middle part that's just not good in this book. So at the end of the day, I give Legend of the Lost Legend 2 out of 5 stars. And that might seem a little harsh to some people, especially because I've been a little bit positive sounding about the book in parts, but really the ending and that very beginning and the character development are all that saved this book, in my opinion. Otherwise it'd be a 1 star, because that middle part was just too ridiculous, too over the top for me. I didn't love it. I kind of kept thinking, okay, when are we going to move past this and get to something that's good, because this is just kind of getting annoying now. So that's my review of Legend of the Lost Legend. Have you read this one? What did you think about it? Do you agree? Do you disagree? How do you feel like the beginning mirrors something that happens later on, if you know what I mean? Well, until next time, everybody, keep reading. Bye!